What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to show you the key differences of the Phantom 4 Pro and the Mavic 2 Pro. Now this is for you guys that can't decide what drone you guys want. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the Phantom 4 Pro and the camera's tech specs. Okay, now with the Phantom 4 Pro, with the sensor you have a 1-inch CMOS sensor with a 20 megapixel. Now the lens has a field of view of 84, a 24 millimeter lens. Now the aperture is f2.8 and it can go to 11. Now for ISO range for video, starts at 10 and it can go up to 3200, that's auto. And for manual, it's 100 to 6400 manual. And for photo, it's 10 to 3200 auto and 10 to 12,800, and that's manual. ISO range for the photo. Now there's shutter speed. There's two shutter speeds for the Phantom 4. There's electronic shutter and there's mechanical shutter. Now your electronic shutter can go from 8 seconds to 8 thousandths of a second, and your mechanical shutter can only go to 8 seconds to 2 thousandths of a second. Now for shooting, you have single shot and you have burst shooting. Now single shot will only take one photo, 24 megapixel, and whatever you have your settings at. Now burst shootings, also the same thing, but you have many options. You have 3 all the way up to 14 frames per second of continuous burst shooting. Now for video formats, there's 2. There's H.264 and H.265. Now for H.265, you have limited video resolutions, 24, 25, and 30 frames per second at bit rates of 100 megabits per second. Next you have 4K at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second, and same thing, 100 megabytes of bitrate. 2.7K at 24, 25, and 30, but with 65 megabits of bitrate. And then you have 2.7K at 48, 50, and 60 frames per second at 80 megabits per second. Now H.264 is where you get the 4K 60 frame per second ability. If you switch it to H.265, you don't get to play 4K at 60. So just keep a note of that. If you want to play in 60 frames per second in 4K, you need to have it in H.264. Now Cine D-Lite for H.264, it can go up to 60 frames per second, and the regular 4K mode can also go up to 60 frames per second. And then so on and so on for 2.7K, up to 60, Full HD, and HD 720p at 120 frames per second. Now the max video bitrate for the Phantom 4 Pro is 100 megabits per second. In the photo format, there's 2. There's JPEG and DNG, also known as RAW. And for video format, there's MP4 and MOV, H.264 and H.265. Okay, next we have the controller. Now there's 2 operating frequencies. There's 2.4 and 2.8 gigahertz. The operating temperatures for the controllers are 0 Celsius to 40 Celsius. The controller battery is 6,000 milliamps. Now the max transmission distance is 7,000 meters, which is 4.3 miles. Now this is without objects in the way. You have to be free of buildings. And this is how far the drone can go away from the controller. Now the intelligent flight battery for the Phantom has a rated energy of 89 watt hours. The capacity is 5,870 milliamp hours, and the normal voltage is 15.2 and max charging voltage is 17.4. Now it is a 4S LiPo battery and it weighs 468 grams. Now the max charging power for this battery is 100 watts. Okay, next we have the Mavic 2 Pro and the tech specs. Now the Mavic 2 Pro also has a 1-inch CMSO sensor, and there's 20 megapixels for your photo. Now the lens is a 28 millimeter. The aperture also ranges from 2.8 to 11. And for the ISO range, we have 100 to 6400. And for photo, we have 100 to 3200. That's auto. And for manual, we have 100 to 12,800. Now that's the ISO range for the Mavic 2. Now the key differences from the Mavic 2 and the Phantom 4 is that the Mavic 2 has an electric shutter. It does not have a mechanical shutter. Now the electronic shutter ranges from 8 seconds to 8 thousandths of a second. Also another key feature is the still photography modes. Now you have 2 on here also. You have single shots and burst shootings. Now for burst shootings, you have 3 and 5 frames. You do not go all the way up to 14 frames, whereas the Phantom 4 Pro does. Okay, and here's where the Mavic 2 Pro and the Phantom 4 Pro really separate. Now for H.265, the Mavic 2 Pro can shoot in 10-bit. It can shoot in D-Log and HLG for 4K, 2430, and 25 frames per second. And actually, the Mavic 2 Pro can shoot in any of its settings, H.265. So you can shoot in 4K, 2.7, and Full HD on H.265 and 10-bit. Now the max video bitrate is 100 megabits per second, and the photo format is JPEG and DNG RAW, same as Phantom 4. For video format, you have MP4 and MOV, H.264 and H.265. Now for the battery, we have a 60 watt hour, and the capacity is 3,850 milliamp hours, and the voltage is 15.4. The max charging voltage is 17.6. Now this is also a 4S LiPo battery. The weight of the battery is 297 grams, and max charging power is 80 watts. Now for the video transmission system, Mavic 2 Pro has OcuSync 2.0 compared to the Phantom 4 Pro has Lightbridge. So you're going to get a way more clearer output video quality on your phone. Now in my opinion, it's really up to you guys. Are you a videographer that want really good colors? If so, you would go towards the Mavic 2 Pro with its 10-bit HDR video, whereas the Phantom does not have 10-bit in HDR. The Phantom is really good for photos, the burst shooting, and the mechanical shutter, so you don't have motion blur in your photos. So yeah, it's really up to you guys. If you're looking into photo, I would go into the Phantom, and if you're going into video, I would go into the Mavic series. Hey guys, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like the video. Subscribe right now.